Hi there and welcome to St Andrew's Reflections for Thursday the 2nd of April. Our reflections today take another step closer to Easter as we draw nearer to Jerusalem and Palm Sunday. This coming Sunday, of course, is Palm Sunday. So we'll be thinking then about Jesus' entry into Jerusalem. But carrying on using thoughts from Claire Banton Evans in her book Encountered, I want to reflect on the idea of city as we draw closer to thinking about Jerusalem, the place that Jesus enters for the final time before his death. So I don't know what you think about city life. We, of course, at St Andrews are part of Leeds, a big city. I have to say that when Rachel and I first got married, we thought, I seem to remember, about thinking we'd never live in a city. Of course, since then, we've lived in two cities. We lived in Coventry and then moved to Leeds. Never really seeing ourselves, I suppose, as being part of big city life. But as many of you know, we love life in Leeds. We love being part of this great city because it has so much going on. It's so diverse. It really is a wonderful place to be, we think, and so we've embraced that. We're going to think a bit about city life, and it'll draw maybe some of your thoughts or memories about the city you live in, the place you live in. You might be watching this from somewhere else, where you're outside of a city. So you might like to think of a city you've been to, or a part of, have been part of at some point in your life. You may find it helpful to have a picture of a busy city scene. Of course, city streets are not generally that busy at the moment, certainly not round here. So you may want, we're going to be thinking about the bustling life in Jerusalem, but likening that to life in the city where we are. But I want to use a large part of Claire's reflections for the idea of a modern city, and these are her personal reflections as somebody who grew up outside of a city, and then her thoughts on London. So it's called a modern city. As a child growing up in Somerset, my experience of London was limited to the occasional school trip or family visit. I carried in my head a bright and compact image of the city, in which Paddington Station stood cheek by jowl with the Natural History Museum, Madame Tussauds, Buckingham Palace, London Zoo and St Paul's Cathedral. As a teenager in the 1980s, this mental picture of London darkened. As well as being a place full of famous landmarks, the city was also in the news as the home of a controversial government, a focus for popular protest, and the target for IRA bomb threats. My image of the city encompassed two extremes, but it was still essentially two-dimensional. When I moved to London in the 1990s, I was finally able to fill in some of the gaps between landmarks and the headlines. I lived among the housing estates of Haggerston and Bethnal Green. I travelled north through the prosperous suburbs when I went to work. I experienced the crowded buses and the underground trains and shops and the ordinary life of London, and how this was above all an experience of people in all their variety. A priest from central London puts it like this: always noisy, always busy. The pavements are populated by students, office workers, business people, babies in buggies. Edgware Road is a great leveller because it constantly reminds us that we are part of a great crowd. We hold concerns, joys, needs and habits in common with many other people. This levelling is not oppressive but liberating. because the living, breathing, talking, walking, teeming human melee reminds us that no one but no one is the same. Another city priest describes the way in which this kind of awareness is encouraged by urban retreats, called retreats on the streets. The idea behind retreats on the streets is that people spend a day in the city with nothing to do other than be aware of what is happening around them, to reflect on the fact that the people in the city, rich and poor, are all God's children. During the day, which they spend alone, they become aware of the vast differences in power and wealth which exist side by side in the city. I don't know if you're one of those people that loves people watching. Sometimes I just love to sit on a bench and watch people go by. That may sound weird. I don't mean it like that. Whether it be at a festival or out on the street, that's obviously not the thing we're encouraged to do at the moment, so don't, please. But when things get back to any semblance of normality, maybe we could embrace this idea of retreats on the streets. Some of you may already do prayer walks. You may pray while you're walking and getting your once a day exercise at the moment, and I encourage you to do that. Pray for the people behind their doors, those who are unable to get out, those who are feeling loneliness in its extreme. We're reminded that we are all still in this city and this busy, bustling place we call Leeds. If we're going to meet God in the city, then surely we need to engage in city life in the way that Jesus did. And as we approach Palm Sunday, when Jesus gets welcomed into Jerusalem, the last time probably he gets welcomed, we get this idea of a busy, heaving city at the centre of a festival with so much going on, with so many people from so many backgrounds. Please keep all that in mind as we come into the beginning of Holy Week in the next few days. I'll share another thought about about being in the city tomorrow. But do pray for the place where you live, the city, the people, but hold it alongside this image of Jerusalem that we'll be looking at over the next few days. I want to just briefly share two verses from the Bible that comes at the end of the traditional Palm Sunday readings. And it's verses 10 and 11 from chapter 21 of Matthew's Gospel. When he entered Jerusalem, the whole city was in turmoil, asking, "Who is this?" The crowds were saying, "This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth in Galilee." So this prophet, this great speaker, this great healer, this person that people labelled in many and different ways, is coming from the provinces, from the rural townships, into the city once again. How will that city receive him? Well, of course, we know the answer to that, but I want you to hold that image of bustling city life at the centre of all the festivals going on there in your mind for the next few days. And hold it alongside our empty city life at the moment, when things are comparatively quiet and comparatively not busy. Hold that in your prayers this week. Let us pray. Living Lord, you were in the thick of it, in the busy streets, in the heart of the crowds, in the centre of power, in the hands of soldiers, in the middle of the cross. Teach us how to know you in the crowd, to imagine you in the city, to hear you through the noise, to love you in the midst of this busy life. Amen. Busy life has taken on a different form for many of us now. My life is still manically busy, but busy in a very different way from what it was a few weeks back. Keep everybody in your prayers. Keep safe, and we'll share more about city life tomorrow. God bless.